Three Demons, Book 1, Chapter 9, The Final Roadblock. My name is Chione Amon. I am the left hand of the Sakuraba Company. I applaud how far this small company has gotten against us, but it's nothing but luck, and your luck ends here, Chione tells us. However, Jake appears behind her and with the end of his scythe smacks her into the ground. Annoying little rat. Chione stands up after hitting the ground, Chione nearly wanting to respond to Jake. However, Ava is behind her with a ball of lightning in her hand. Chione, on instinct alone, flicks a droplet of water onto the hand that Ava has a ball of lightning, causing Ava's attack to be used against her, electrocuting her. As Ava falls down to one knee, Kazuto runs up, creating a bone blade to appear out of his elbow as he attempts to ram his elbow into Chione's abdomen. Chione is then able to create a reflective barrier that sends Kazuto skipping across the ground once his blade connects to the barrier. As Chione attempts to fly back into the sky, Jake appears and slashes at her, only barely missing as she jumps backwards. Jake, Ava, and Kazuto all stand up and stare down Chione. You are all very persistent. Very well. I'll stop holding back, Chione tells us. Chione taps her staff onto the ground. Suddenly, a herd of 16 small sphinxes emerge from the ground and ready themselves to pounce onto us. Fodder, that's what they are, Jake says with a distinct boredom in his voice. Boys, you guys deal with the group of sphinx. I'll distract Chione, Ava tells us. Kazuto nods in agreement while Jake doesn't respond. The group separates with Kazuto and Jake battling the sphinx while Ava battles Chione in the sky. On the ground, Jake and Kazuto one by one eliminate the sphinx army, slashing away at the golden rubber-like bodies. However, as the sphinx begins melting away from the slash through their bodies, they begin to reform and they begin to slowly become more powerful. Kazuto and Jake's attacks eventually become less effective. Kazuto asks himself what is causing the sphinx to regenerate and become stronger. Maybe less daydreaming and more figure out how to get rid of them, so I don't have to do all the work again, Jake claps back at Kazuto. Kazuto becomes frustrated. He then suddenly gets an idea come to him. Kazuto looks at the sphinx nose and sees an eye on every one of the sphinx. Kazuto then runs up, pushing a sharp-tipped bone out of his palm and stabbing one of the sphinx in the nose, causing the sphinx to create a loud roar before turning into stone and collapsing in on itself. Kazuto yells out in sudden realization, Randy, aim for the nose! They've got some sort of symbol on their nose. I think that's their weakness. Jake looks at the sphinx and realizes that Kazuto is right. Jake smirks. You finally did something useful for once. Kazuto and Jake then proceed to eliminate the remaining sphinx, Kazuto piercing each in the nose, almost getting stuck in the stone corpse left behind from the sphinx. Another sphinx almost attacked Kazuto while he was stuck until Jake was able to come in and make the save, sliding the blade of his scythe into the nose of the sphinx, swinging it at the others. Jake and Kazuto eventually finish off the sphinx, leaving rubble from the sphinx's corpses around them. I'm impressed. You almost eliminated more than me. Almost, Jake smugly tells Kazuto. In the sky, where Ava and Chione are battling it out, Ava is sending out blasts of water towards Chione, where in response she uses walls of sand to block each blast. Ava begins to breathe heavily from exhaustion as she has used up all of her demonic arcanic ability, or energy, throughout the battle. Chione smirks at Ava. This results in Ava becoming frustrated with being underestimated. I could tell you're almost tapped out. Your attacks are becoming weaker and weaker the more you exert yourself, Chione reveals to Ava. Ava lashes out at Chione, telling her to shut her mouth and that she doesn't know what she's talking about. Ava then smirks at Chione herself. Before Chione could realize why she was smirking, a spear made of ice comes barreling towards her. Chione attempts to get out of the way, but the spear cuts deep into her shoulder, causing blood to begin flowing from the wound. Chione comes enraged. You bitch! She screams at Ava. She then motions her hand in a way that causes the ground to begin shaking. The ground begins moving and rising up, wrapping around Ava. Kazuto and Jake realize what is going on and begin making moves to get close to the battle and help Ava. Ava is then thrown into Kazuto, sending the two rocketing towards the ground and hitting with enough impact to cause a small crater. Chione then spins her staff around in a circle, causing a strong magnetic force that pulls Jake towards it. When Jake makes contact with the ball of magnetic energy, it causes a strong reaction that sends a shockwave throughout the battlefield, sending Jake through a small plateau. Alter switch to Randy. I rise from the rubble and wipe off all the debris from my clothing before heading to go check up on Ava and Kazuto. You guys okay? Ava is noticeably wincing in pain from the last attack she was hit with. Kazuto's knees are buckling, but he forces himself to stay and get back to the fight. I don't assume either of you have a plan. Kazuto asks us, clearly hoping we'd have some sort of plan. I shake my head, not really knowing how to come up with any plan that would work in the moment. However, Alva begins speaking up. I have something. But Kazuto, I'm going to need you to distract her for a moment while me and Randy set the rest of the plan. I looked at her very confused. It felt like I was supposed to know what she was planning, but I was drawing a blank. I began asking myself if I had forgotten something she had taught me during training. Nonetheless, Kazuto had full faith in her and jumped headfirst back into the battle with Chione. Alva then looked straight at me. Randy, I'm going to need you to do something for me. I need to cut my hand open with your blade. I'm suddenly found dumbfounded at this sudden request. However, I just sigh and hold my blade forward to her. Alva then wraps her hand around the blade tightly and slides her hand down the blade, cutting her hand open and wincing in pain. However, when she does this, she feels an immense power. She looks up at where I was standing, but instead of seeing me, she sees a silhouette of aura that of a raging flame. She continues to look upward, but the more she does, the more the flame seems to grow and become more out of control. Sweat begins dropping from the side of her face as she begins shaking. I call out her name and asked if she was okay, since she had suddenly just froze up from cutting herself. She shakes her head and just smiles at me. Yeah, I'm fine, she tells me, clearly lying, but I'm not going to worry about it too much. Alva then lets go of my blade, and blood is pouring out of her hand. Suddenly, the blood starts tracing up her arm and all over her body, forming small demonic-like symbols across her body. Her body begins having a light red aura surrounding it. I can already tell something awesome is going to happen, Joseph suddenly shouted out in the subconscious. Oh, so you're finally awake? Jake responds sarcastically. Alva then looks at me. Make sure Lady Rhea is granted her freedom. My eyes widen, not knowing what to say, as Alva leaps to the sky to battle Kazuto. To help Kazuto battle Chione. Alva's aura is creating a static shock-like effect, causing Chione to feel damage whenever she gets near Alva. Chione is continued to be pushed further and further into a metaphorical corner. In a last-ditch effort, Chione uses her staff to send a blast of demonic energy towards Kazuto, sending him flying into the ground. However, when she attempts to do the same to Alva, Alva's aura seemingly cancels out the demonic arcana. Alva then forces the aura into the palm of her hand, the demonic symbols retracting along with the aura to make her attack more powerful. She throws herself at Chione, forcing the palm attack towards Chione's abdomen. The two begin struggling as Chione attempts to use both sand and reflective arcana to repel the attack. Down below, Kazuto struggles to get back onto his feet. He looks over at me. Randy, I'm going to need you to propel me up there. I nod and walk over to Kazuto, helping him set up this propelling attack he is planning. But before I send him flying, he smiles and tells me, it's up to you to make sure Lady Rhea is given her freedom. Before I realize what he tells me, I send him flying back into the sky, Kazuto pushing out multiple curved blades from his forearm to dig into Chione's face, causing the combined attack from both Kazuto and Alva to send all three of them to fall over the edge into the void, the red aura from Alva surrounding all three of them as they exit the battlefield. Chione Amin of the Sakuraba Company has been eliminated. Kazuto Hagisawa and Alva Hajime of the Gabrielle Company have also been eliminated. I look towards where Alva and Kazuto eliminated themselves and began thinking to myself, that just leaves one, I say to myself. Those two deemed us as the people to beat that fucker's ass, Joseph screams out in the subconscious. End of chapter 9.